Sometimes the most powerful stories in history are about the figures we barely notice, the ones kind of hidden in plain sight. Today, we're diving into one of them, Simon the Zealot, and his absolutely incredible journey from radical hatred to profound loyalty.
Before he was an apostle, Simon was a man of total extremes. We're talking about a political radical, a social outcast, and someone who was just consumed by what's been described as a deep, bitter hatred.
And that really gets us to the heart of this entire story, doesn't it? What happens when a political firebrand, someone who believes in violent rebellion, comes face to face with a spiritual master who wields a completely different kind of power?
To really get a feel for that collision, we first have to understand the world Simon came from. It was a world just simmering with rebellion, suffering, and some really intense hatred. See, Simon's identity was completely fractured. On the one hand, he was a zealot, a passionate nationalist, all in on rebelling against Rome. But on the other hand, he was a total outcast, isolated and nearly dead from leprosy, in a family that was itself torn apart by that exact same kind of hatred. This guy was at war with the world for sure, but also with himself. His life was just pure chaos. As a political fugitive, he was constantly on the run, forced into hiding. But it was in that crushing isolation, facing persecution day in and day out, that something really unexpected started to happen. Through deep meditation, his whole concept of a Messiah began to change, shifting away from some military conqueror and towards something way more spiritual.
And all of this leads us right to that one pivotal moment, the turning point that changed absolutely everything for Simon, a moment where all his suffering and his new ideas finally found a focus.
Okay, and let's be super clear about what he was looking for at first. Like a lot of people back then, Simon wanted a political savior. He'd even backed other guys who claimed to be messiahs, hoping for what they called a new Maccabeus, basically a military hero who would just violently kick Rome out. So naturally, Simon was first drawn to Jesus because of the famous miracles. He was hoping for a physical cure, but what he found was so much deeper. The healing didn't just fix his body, it freed his heart from the hatred that separates from God. And it seems like Jesus saw this potential in him almost immediately. He didn't just see a bitter rebel, he saw a future spiritual giant. He used this incredible metaphor that Simon would be transformed from a fragile thin blade of grass into a sturdy, glorious palm tree. I mean, that just perfectly captures the massive change that was about to unfold.
So, how did this huge internal shift actually play out in the real world? Well, it completely redefined his role. The former radical? He became the group's great stabilizer.
The change was so dramatic that, everyone noticed. Jesus himself called him as loyal as no one else. Even the impulsive Simon Peter praised him, saying, "Honesty is painted on your face." That old intolerance that had defined him as a zealot was just gone, replaced with humility, wisdom, and this deep sense of prudence. He pretty much became the group's official peacemaker. There's this one amazing story where he notices Peter's growing intolerance for Judas. Now, instead of adding fuel to that fire, Simon just calmly steps in to moderate. He had developed such a quiet authority that he could shut down Judas's sarcasm with nothing more than a severe look. The rebel had truly become the diplomat.
And his new role just becomes crystal clear when you put him side by side with the other Simon in the group, Simon Peter. While Peter was the impulsive, loud, outspoken leader, Simon the Zealot was the calm, mature, prudent moderator. He brought a crucial balance to the whole dynamic.
So, what does this all add up to? What was the ultimate legacy of this transformation? Did that blade of grass really become the glorious palm tree? Well, his contributions were just immense, and they were all over the place. He became a super active teacher, a source of really profound spiritual insight, and a practical, get-it-done organizer for the group's mission. He showed incredible courage, even standing up to temple authorities, and he was trusted with organizing the disciples for all the work that was still to come.
And his loyalty? It wasn't just a phase, it was legendary. Get this. According to Jesus' mother Mary, Simon kept preaching for over 30 years after Jesus' death. 30 years. In the face of constant persecution, he never once faltered. Now that is the sign of a real and lasting transformation.
Simon Peter really nailed it with this compliment. Unlike a lot of people who get more set in their ways as they get older, Simon just got better, purer, and wiser. His growth wasn't a one-time thing, it was a lifelong process. So, in the end, the outcast leper and the political rebel became a cornerstone of the entire movement. His life is really the ultimate story of the journey from bitter, all-consuming hatred to unwavering, steadfast loyalty. So you have to wonder, if a man so completely defined by political hatred and his own suffering could transform so radically, what does that say about the potential for change that exists inside every single one of us? It's a pretty powerful thought to leave you with.